Okay. Let's see how we're going, folks. We are just going to have a little bit of a wait around and get people onto the show. Ollie, do you want to take it from here, mate?
Yeah. So welcome back. We have had a couple of technical issues, but we think we've sorted it out. How many physios do you reckon it takes to fix an audio issue? 3, hopefully, maybe more. Time will tell. Yeah, that was just one I picked up on the fly. So if you've got any others, put them in the comments because I'm scraping the barrel here. Oh, dearie me. This is the point when people start saying, "Don't give up your day job, Ollie," isn't it, Jack?
Yeah, this has been tough.
Yeah.
We've got a couple of people live, mate.
Well, one of those would be Alicia.
We now got 3 people live.
Okay.
So we're just going to give people a couple of minutes. I'm going to make sure this is posted in our membership group.
Well, yeah, as we said, thank you very much for hanging around today. We are talking about, is running bad for your knees? It's a very nuanced topic, and I believe you will learn something new regardless of your opinion on the topic. So hopefully you'll leave here in about 25 minutes with some new information in your head, which we strive for here at Be Mobile, is giving people new information.
Great, I've just posted the new link for the show in the Facebook group. We do apologise, everybody. We do hate it when this happens,
we hate it.
When the tech stuff's up, but hopefully you got us now. So we've got 7 people. Let us know that you can hear us firstly and that everything is all good, and then we can happily get into the show. Great.
We just need one comment to say the audio is good and we're going to get started. So that could be you. Don't wait for someone else to tell us. Put it in the comments.
Great. Loud and clear, Barbara says.
You're a legend. Here we go, folks.
We are good to go. And Alicia, if you don't mind just checking that YouTube is up and running as well, great. Now, I was just telling Ollie, well, you were just saying, Ollie, that we're going to be talking about running. Now, I was running through the street the other day, which turns out it's actually not too bad for your knees. But as I was running along the Corso in Manly, I actually saw a Spanish magician.
No.
A Spanish magician.
A Spanish musician?
No, a Spanish magician. And he was doing a trick. And at the end of the trick, before the big finale, he said, 1, 2, and then he disappeared without a tres.
So, if you didn't hear that the first time, you're sure in stitches now.
Hopefully not the stitches where you've actually got a cut.
No.
Because if you are, you might burst them.
No, yeah.
So you don't want to be in them.
No.
Okay, folks, it looks like we are running loud and clear now. Once again, we do apologise that the live mucked up a little bit, but we are on our way. We're problem solving. We're doing our thing. Now, Ollie, we're going to get into the education segment. We were talking before about whether running was bad for your knees. This is something we hear all the time. I hear it from friends, I hear it from clients, from members, that you shouldn't run too much because all that pounding the pavement will be bad for your knees. And I actually had a specific member write in via email asking me a couple of questions. So this was Karen, one of our long-term members. She said, I posted in the group declaring my intention to start the Couch to 5K, which is a program from getting you off the couch and into a 5K run. There have been lots of great comments from the members, but a few did feed into my concerns around running doing damage to my knees. I did run a bit in my late 30s. I've always been very slow, 40-minute 5K, but I did get a bit of a niggly knee. I was wondering if you had any tips to stay safe and undamaged. I've decided to stick to my treadmill for now, especially with winter approaching, and I'm not prepared to declare my running intention to all of my cars as they drive past me on the lane. Okay. So that was the question from Karen, if we had any tips to stay safe and undamaged when it comes to running. And Viv, another one of our members, commented, I've done the Couch to 5K years ago as the start of my self-challenge when I turned 60. I think I'll go back to it. I do walk fairly regularly, but often push too hard and fast and end up with aches and pains, especially in my hamstrings. I really ought to have learnt by now. Looking forward to the live show. Beautiful.
Yeah.
So, mate, do you want to start by going into a little bit why people think running is bad for the knees. Where does this come from?
Where does it come from? It's a very good question, Jack, and I'm not sure if I have an answer, but I think a lot of it comes from people run and then their knees hurt, and then we draw a black and white bridge between those two things.
Very clear
Running
bridge.
equals pain equals bad. But as we'll find out, it's not as simple as that. Now, in society, I think if you think about areas of the body such as the back, for example, people think that the body is fragile. It's like a car that needs servicing. It needs eventual replacement if we wear it out. But that's actually not the case. We're not fragile. We are, in fact, anti-fragile. And what we mean by that is because we are biological organisms, we have this capacity to adapt to stress.
Yeah, so we respond to stress and actually get stronger rather than crumble. And a lot of people might have thought, oh, my knees are really worn out because I did lots of running when I was younger. But we have some evidence to show that the opposite might actually be true.
If I can just speak from my own personal experience
let's go.
for a moment, Jack.
Let's do it.
The other day, well, a little while ago now, a few months.
This story doesn't sound very true.
It's not started well, does it?
No, go for it.
I ran to work.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah.
How many Ks was it?
Yeah, that was 23 kilometres.
23 kilometres.
Yeah.
He didn't do much work that day.
No, not much work done that day. Sorry, Mitch. But as a result of that, would you believe it, I had a very sore knee.
Yep.
So,
weird, right? You've never done over 20 Ks in your life and you suddenly run 23 and you had knee pain. Wow.
Too much too soon. But now I'm back to running. I'm doing shorter distances, and would you believe it, absolutely fine. So perhaps it's more about, as we'll get into, the dosage of the running.
Yeah.
But
So let's talk about dosage, and let's firstly ask the question: is running bad for your knees? Let's look at the evidence. So there is a great study which we have quoted a couple of times, and there is obviously more than just this study, but this is one very poignant one, which basically compared the prevalence of knee osteoarthritis signs in active marathon runners versus the prevalence of knee arthritis in the general population. This is a US study. The mean age was 48, okay, so very close to our population. There were people up to, I think, people in their 70s, maybe even 80s in this study. So there were 675 active marathon runners that they compared to the general population. Now, Ollie, who would you think would have the higher rates of knee osteoarthritis, going off your reasoning from before?
Well, you'd have to think, based off my experience, that the marathon runners, they ran more than double what I did. They must have knee osteoarthritis.
Okay, absolutely. They're doing a lot of training, right? Some of them up to 100 kilometres of running a week. The general population had a knee arthritis rate of 17.9%. Okay, so nearly 1 in 5.
Okay, so the general population, we mean people who aren't marathon runners?
Aren't marathon runners, yep. And that's inclusive of people who are sedentary, not exercising. The active marathon runners had a knee osteoarthritis rate of 8.8%. So almost half, almost exactly half of that.
Almost exactly half.
Almost exactly.
So that's pretty damning. In terms of that hypothesis that running causes knee osteoarthritis. Now, of course, this wasn't a prospective study where we take a group and follow them over a long period of time. It is retrospective, meaning it is a little open to bias. It's not perfect evidence, but we've got some more studies that we're going to look into in just a moment's time. Yeah,
because just to clear that up, a lot of the marathon runners might be just generally healthier people and have always exercised throughout their life, less weight, all those types of things. Okay, so what about whether there is a certain type or amount of running which is more beneficial for you? Because this is interesting, and this is why we need lots of bits of evidence when we look at these topics, because you can't just look at one piece like we did and say, well, therefore marathon running is good for you and everything else is not. Alicia, how are we going with the computer? Were you able to get up those PDFs? Great. So let's talk about this. There was a study titled The Association of Recreational and Competitive Running with Hip and Knee Osteoarthritis, a systematic review and meta-analysis where they get all these studies together and they pick out all the data and then kind of compare it and bring it all together. Brody is usually the one to help us understand exactly what that means. So runners were regarded as competitive if they were reported as a professional/elite athlete or participated in international competitions, whereas recreational runners were individuals running in non-professional, so an amateur context, such as me, Ollie, or Alicia, who all do a bit of running. So this is really interesting. So Alicia's just brought that PDF image there on screen. Alicia, if you don't mind just getting rid of the banner. The banner's just covering the bottom. They're great. So on the left of the screen there, you can see we have the data from sedentary people. So 10 out of every 100 people who were sedentary had symptoms or signs of knee OA. So we can kind of gauge there that too little running, so being sedentary, not doing enough exercise, can increase your likelihood of knee OA.
Then in the middle, we've got the recreational runners who had a knee osteoarthritis rate of about 3%, so 3 in every 100. And then, of course, the elite runners over on the other side, where they had a 13% rate of knee osteoarthritis. So what we're sort of seeing from this data in particular is that there's maybe this sort of sweet spot in the middle where it's not doing nothing and it's not being a really elite international level runner where you're doing heaps and heaps of training over a long period of time, over decades. Perhaps it's in the middle, just doing a moderate level of exercise and running is going to be the best thing for you.
Yeah, 100%. So that's a really interesting study as well. But then, like, you know, regardless of whether you're going to get knee pain running or not, we've got to think of the overall health benefits of running, and there's a lot of evidence to show that running is very, very good for you. So I'm going to point to this study in particular. Well, there's a couple of we're talking about here. One took a lot of papers, and they showed that there was a negative association with knee OA surgery when it came to people who run. So we can't say that if you run, you're not going to get knee surgery, but we can see there is a negative association. So maybe you're less likely.
And of course, there are other factors that could potentially be at play to give that conclusion from that study. Like, for example, you might think that, well, if you're a runner, maybe you want to keep running. You don't want to have to put off running for 6 or 8 months or something.
Let's go to that second part, because there's another study which shows that running is associated with a lower risk of all-cause, cardiovascular and cancer mortality. So this is, running participation is associated with 27%, 30% and 23% lower risk of all-cause, cardiovascular and cancer mortality, respectively, compared with no running. So pretty much 20 to 30% reduction of all those type of risks we talked about, to mortality, cardiovascular, cancer and all-cause mortality. So once again, probably better off running / doing exercise than not.
Yeah,
which most people probably get here.
So we've discussed a couple of different viewpoints here, and if you're confused about what our stance is, let's be crystal clear. We think running is very good for your health. We think it's good for your knees. We don't think it's going to increase your chances of knee osteoarthritis. And in fact, if you already have knee osteoarthritis, we don't think running is necessarily bad for you. It'd be about finding a appropriate starting point, something that you can manage. And of course, you're getting a range of other health benefits from running and exercise in general. So great. Let's dive into now some of our best tips for getting started with running, if that's something that you're interested in. And I would actually extrapolate and say these tips will apply to any form of exercise that you're looking at getting started with.
For sure. So whenever you're starting with anything, when it comes to exercise, we have a mantra at Be Mobile, which we say over and over and over, and it's start low, go slow. Okay, so start at something which you can manage. Now, you might actually not know what you can manage.
No.
But that's where it's about testing in a very slow manner. So rather than going out and trying to be a professional marathon runner tomorrow and entering in your first marathon in 2 weeks' time, maybe think about starting at a very minimal level. So you might do more of a walk-run interval session, or maybe even just starting with walking if you haven't been doing much recently. We're actually going to talk about the Couch to 5K program as well, because I think this is a good example.
And Jack, to that point, it's much, much easier to take little baby steps forward than taking too big a step and having to take 2 big steps back.
Yeah, especially when it turns you off the exercise because you think that's bad for me. So let's discuss the Couch to 5K running plan. And now this is something everyone can look up. And Alicia, I'm happy to chuck that in the comments. I'm just going to chuck the link to the Couch to 5K in the comments because I think it's actually quite handy, folks. So you can go and look that up.
So basically, the Couch to 5K is a program for going from sedentary to being able to run a 5K run. Just to put a number on it. Yeah.
100%.
But basically, it's more about the process of starting from nothing and slowly building up, as we'll see now.
Great. So this is what Karen and a couple of our other members have actually started recently. Okay. So it has 3 workouts per week, which, I think 1, 2, or 3 would be great for anyone, depending on, what you're used to. But you can see, hopefully you can see a little bit there. Workout 1, it starts with a brisk 5-minute walk, so a nice warm-up, easing you into it. Then alternating 60 seconds of jogging, okay, and then a minute and a half or 90 seconds of walking for a total of 20 minutes, okay? So that's what, around, how many sets would that be?
That's a very good question.
Maybe around 7 sets, I think, around 7 sets of a minute running. So in total, you're doing 7 minutes of running in a total of kind of 25-minute workout.
Yep.
And the majority is just kind of resting / walking, or I should say a slower walk / brisk walk.
Yep.
So you're actually not doing, that's what, 25, so that's like nearly about a quarter of it is actually running.
Yeah.
So you are starting to run, but you're only doing a quarter, 25% of that total workout is actually running. And you just start with a very light jog.
Yeah.
You're not going for it.
Yeah. And do bear in mind as well that this, of course, is a very general program. It's not going to apply to every person. You might hear 20 minutes of walking and running, no chance. But you can always
halve that.
You could halve it, absolutely. And as Jack said, you could just start with walking. The key thing is just getting started with something that you can manage.
Great. Then we look to week 2 and you do a brisk 5-minute warm-up walk. Then you alternate 90 seconds of jogging and 2 minutes of walking. So 120 seconds of walking for a total of 20 minutes. So once again, you're just upping the amount of time that you're running by 30 seconds for each of those sets. So it's very small. Then Alicia, do you want to get up to week 5 and 6? We've skipped a couple of weeks here, but just so you can see the progression. Week 5 for workout 1, you do a brisk 5-minute warm-up walk. Then you jog for 5 minutes, walk for 3 minutes. Jog for 5 minutes, walk for 3 minutes. Jog for 5 minutes. So we're missing a couple of steps there, obviously, but we're just showing you that there is still a progression. And then when you kind of show, as you go on to week 7 and 8, so on and so forth, the obviously the jogging becomes a bigger proportion and the walking becomes a smaller proportion. But I just think the program's a really good example of really starting low and going slow with your progression.
Yeah, absolutely. So once again, like if this is something that interests you, yeah, we think it's a great program to get started with. If you want to start doing some running, or even some walking, and give you something to stick to.
Yeah. Okay. So let's just sum up our thoughts here around running and getting started. So Alicia, if you don't mind bringing up that. So number 1, exercise can be helpful for people with knee osteoarthritis, not just the general population, even those with knee osteoarthritis.
Point number 2, moderate impact exercise like running is not harmful to knee cartilage, and I would add, in fact, in most cases, probably beneficial for your cartilage health.
100%. It's all about starting low and going slow and finding what you can manage. Here are some considerations for starting running, kind of under that start low, go slow umbrella. So number 1 is to run shorter distances, okay, if you are getting some knee pain, or once again, chucking in those intervals of walking, running, okay? So run shorter distances. Run a little slower can sometimes help. So if you go suddenly into that kind of sprint mode, I'm going hard here, that can maybe be a little bit aggravating for you. So maybe just pulling back and do an easier run.
Yeah, absolutely. Tip number 3, which is a little nuanced one, minimize downhill running. That, for people with knee pain, that can be problematic in a lot of cases. For some. So yeah, try avoiding that. And tip number 4 here is break up the running into intervals. As Jack said, running shorter distances, just focusing on short, 1 minute of running, like we saw in that program, 1 minute of running, 90 seconds of walking, for example.
Great. Okay.
Cool.
I think that's it, mate. Now, if running seems way too hard for you right now, let me tell you, there's something way easy you can do, and that's hit that subscribe button for our YouTube or Facebook, because that's a much easier task. So if you haven't done that, you don't want to miss anything else that we're doing around the place.
No.
Okay.
All right.
Ollie, I'm just going to have a look at a couple of comments here.
Yeah, go on.
Beryl says running isn't an option for me as my left leg doesn't work properly.
Fair enough.
Yep, that's fair. Yep, you don't have to run. Nope. We just think it's good for you if you can. Walking is also a great form of exercise. One of the greatest, I would say.
Absolutely. Any other questions or comments?
Trish says running is just a faster walk.
Yeah, that's actually quite deep if you think about it.
Pretty deep. I would actually argue that running is a form of catching yourself from falling over. You're just leaning forward and you're constantly just putting that next foot forward so you don't fall over. Maybe that's what walking is as well. And Amanda says, I was a regular runner earlier in my life. Friends are now attributing my hip issues to my running history. So good to hear your thoughts. Does the running surface have any impact? That's a good question. Do you think the running surface has an impact? So like grass or beach or sand, I should say.
In short, Amanda, no, I don't think the running surface does have any impact. I'm trying to think of a good analogy. But once again, as long as you're building up gradually and becoming accustomed to whatever surface you're running on, that's fine. The only difference here would be if you were running on, like broken glass or lava or something like that.
Yeah, but if you are accustomed to that.
Yeah.
Okay, that's enough of that bloke. Alrighty, folks. Hey, we just have a couple of B-Mobile announcements just for all of our members watching. We have a 5-day fitness frenzy coming up.
We do. We are very excited. When's that start? November 18th.
So that's next Monday.
Next Monday. 5 days, 5
workouts.
Different workouts to do on those 5 days. We're excited. It's bite-sized. You can get your teeth into it. And it's a great little opportunity to kickstart that little exercise habit coming into the holiday period, which for a lot of us, exercise tends to drop off, eating tends to go up. So we think the frenzy is going to be great.
Yes, and it is really a frenzy. We're actually releasing 3 new cardio library workouts in that time, which is massive for a 5-day challenge. So we want you to be on board. Whether you've been exercising recently or not, jump back in. Now is the time, folks. Okay, I thought I'd just share this post from one of our members, Ollie, who was happy for us to share it just without the name on there. So this person is doing our 8-week Fit and Strong program at the moment. And it just shows that exercise can be done anywhere, anytime. So I'm just going to read this here. She says, I've been in Cairns for a bit over a week. Cairns, how do you pronounce that? Cairns? I'm so bad at pronouncing Cairns. Cairns. For a bit over a week and have a couple more days to go. I flew up with 7 kilo carry-on, so no weights. Started week 6 when I got here and was very tempted to just wait till I got home to Sydney. However, decided to pull up my socks and had a good look around. This is what I came up with. A bag of broken tiles, 10 kilos, an esky for tricep dips and 1-legged sit to stands. Small step, a toilet roll to catch for some of those balance exercises, a couple of bottles instead of dumbbells. I unfortunately don't drink milk, so no 2-litre bottles. Small ladder to hang on to. Why am I posting this? I think it's funny, and 2, I guess it's amazing what you can find when you really try. 2 more days and I'll be in my own comfort zone again. So great example of someone who's gone on holidays, but there's no excuses around getting their program done.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, whenever you're lifting weights, it's just a weight. Doesn't matter if it's in the shape of a dumbbell or a kettlebell or a bag of broken tiles.
Or a dog or a grandchild.
Yeah, as long as it's not moving around too much, that could become problematic. Don't want to drop a small child or a dog.
No, of course. Yes, let us
carry on.
Yes. Okay, folks. Just having a look at the comments. Sorry. Well, firstly, everyone says the audio is beautiful. A couple of people saying they're still here. That is good to know. Okay, folks, that's it for us. There are no questions. Once again, sorry for the start, but glad you were able to stick with us and get back into it. And we wanted to finish with a fun story from one of our members, Linda. And Linda's actually coming over from Canada, from Nova Scotia, which is a beautiful place over on the east coast of Canada. My mum's been there. She says it's a very, very nice place. Yeah, and Linda's actually coming to visit us in the next couple of weeks.
That's exciting.
Very, very
we'll be able to hear
exciting
the story in person.
Do you want me to read it?
Go on.
Okay, so as you can see in the photo there, if we've got that up, Alicia, there's a lot of autumn leaves outside Linda's shed, and here goes the story. Linda was doing yard work. She's raking the leaves in around her place in Annapolis Valley, Nova Scotia, and she describes this. She says, "Imagine this. I open the right-hand door to get more leaf bags. The wind slams the door shut and that itty-bitty latch at the top engages. I'm locked in. It's dark. I push at the bottom of the door to yell, but no neighbours or walkers around to help me out. I jiggle and push, and the door will not open even when I push hard. So this little old lady takes a run at it and hits it with her left shoulder. The door flies open and fall out, and I roll down the ramp sideways. I'm killing myself laughing at the bottom of the ramp. Why? My neck doesn't hurt. My hip doesn't hurt. The shoulder is a bit bruised, but I can pop up and get back to work. Next day, nothing hurts except the bruise. It wasn't luck alone. Astonishing, those fast twitch muscles we've been working on help reaction time to roll into the fall. Most importantly, the much improved neck muscles did the job and my neck didn't hurt on the following days. Before Be Mobile, a misstep landing heavily on one foot would have been enough to make the left arm tingle or go numb. I had become afraid of falling. Previous slips or falls on ice would put me in bed for 2 days or longer and hurt for weeks. I can't believe the difference."
Well, I think that's just a great way to finish off the show, I think, because, a great example of exercise promoting that ability to live life.
Yeah, keep exercising, folks. And if you want to get into running, start low, go slow.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Right, see you
that's
later.
it from us.